Hello everyone. So this continues our work with project number 2, and what we were able to accomplish in the first video is to build our app with the 3 sliders that can move, but they don't really do anything right now. The slider is a component in the library, and if you click on the slider here, it will tell you what component. It says here UI slider. UI stands for user interface, and this is a library component that exists in the UI kit framework, which has everything really, all the library components or objects. I call it components because it is a component on the view that constructs the user interface, and it is an object because it is made out of an object that has attributes and has behavior that we can use, which is without us doing anything, just adding it to our screen. We were able to move the thumb and change its color and so on and so forth, because these are features already built in the library. We need to add a component that allows us to demonstrate the color that is resulting from moving these 3, and that will complete our interface. We also need one for the alpha, but let's demonstrate the color without the alpha first, then we'll add the alpha slider. There are many different components here, and you can learn about all of them, and you may think of different ways to demonstrate the resulting color. What I will do is I will look for the view component, and if you keep looking here, there's a view component which represents a rectangular region. Inside that rectangular region, we can change its color, and that will demonstrate based on the changes that happens in any of these sliders. So we drag a view into our screen, and remember, we still have one more slider to go. So we want to make the size here reasonable. So here is the size of our view. This view, there isn't really much we want to add to it. It starts with a white color, which is the same color as we have here, and we will change its color when one of those sliders change. So you won't see it, but if you click on it, you find it. If you forget what it is, you can open in the bottom lower left corner, you open the document outliner, which give you a list of the different components you added, and you click on that component, and it tells you here is this component. It selects it for you. So now that we built this, we do need to see how we can get it to work and build some functionality. The functionality home is the controller. So we finished when building the view of our app. Now we need to build the controller that will control our app and give it the brain or the intelligence that will make it work. I don't need the utility area anymore, so on the top right corner there is a button to show or hide the utility. I will hide the utility, and I need to start working with the view controller.h and the view controller.aim. The difference between the two, in the h is a header where we define the connections between the user interface components and the objects or properties that I can use inside my controller. What I'm basically saying here is that each one of those components, and any components that I need to listen to its behavior, I want to know if the users moved the slider and so on. So this is called listening to the behavior of the component. Or I need to read the data from that component. Reading the data meaning I need to know what's the current value on the slider. Or I need to change its data, like the view, I need to change its color. Any component where I need to read its data, change its data, or listen to its behavior, I need to establish a connection and a definition between that component and my controller file or controller class. I will call this class, which is a unit that groups together the different modules and attributes and behaviors that we want to learn. We want to work with. In the reading, there is in integrating frameworks with your code, you will find some information about what a class is, and we will learn about that throughout this class. In order to bring a view that allows us to make the connections, click on the Assistant Editor, which is on the top right corner. And if you click on the Assistant Editor, it will split the screen in two parts. One part will have the storyboard, and the right part will have the header file of the controller that controls the frame. To make some room, I'm going to take out the navigation area by clicking on the navigation button over here. So what do I need to accomplish? I need each one of those components that I'm going to use, I need to connect it here. If I'm using the component to read its data or change its data, I need to connect it as an outlet so that data can be transmitted between the component and the property I define in the header file. If I need to listen to the behavior of the component, then I need to connect it as an action so that the operating system notifies my action module whenever a behavior happens on that component. So for those sliders, I need them all as properties, as an outlet, because I'm listening to its data. I want to read the data that they change. So pressing the control button on your keyboard and clicking and dragging the slider to the header file of the class, of the controller class for that particular screen or view, you see here the message insert outlet action or outlet connection. Release your control and mouse. In the connection type, there are three types: an outlet, an action, and an outlet connection. We're going to be working mostly with outlets and action. Outlet, if you want to read data from the component or put data in the component. Actions, if you want to change the behavior or if you want to listen to the behavior of the components or to the event. So we want to just make it an outlet. This is a UI slider type, which is this is the library type or the library class that provide you with that slider behavior and data. So we want to call this a slider, and we will call this red. And then connect. The name I'm providing here, this is the name of the property. What this name will do, I can use this name inside my controller, and every time I use this name, I'm referring to the object that I have on the screen. Alright? And then let's do the same for the green. So control, drag, release, and then we'll call this slider green. And we're going to do that for the blue. So control, drag, and this will be slider blue. And we want to do the same for the view. But you will say, well, the view, I'm not reading any data from the view. That's true, but I'm changing its data. So it also needs to be an outlet. So this is also an outlet. And I will call this I will call it the display view. Display view. Alright. Then I need an action module so that when the slider changes, when the event of changing the slider happens, my action module is called, is notified. In project number 1, we had a text field, but also we had a button. So when the user clicked the button, we connected the button with an action module so that that module is notified every time the user clicks the button. We want to do the same. So a question that you ask yourself now is, do I need one action module for each one of the sliders? Or do I need one module that all the sliders will connect to? Well, the answer to this question, and again, this is something for you to decide, but since the action that what the app will do in response to the red slider or the green slider or blue slider is to change the color of this view, meaning that the app response is the same whether it is the green slider that calls it blue or red. Then you may say, well, I'm going to create one action module and all sliders will connect to that one action module. And what this action module will do is to take the value of those sliders and construct a color based on those values and change the view background based on those values. So to do this, I'm going back to the slider, but this time I'm connecting the slider, but I'm not connecting the slider as an outlet. I am connecting the slider as an action. So change the connection type, and the connection type here will be an action. And what is the name of the connection type? I'm going to call this change color. Right? The event here, this is the event that will trigger the notification to this action module. These are the different types of events. The value change is the most common for a slider, so we'll leave it as the value change. The argument, if you want to pass which argument has been changed, you can keep that. We're not going to use it, but what this will do, it will send to you a connection or a reference to the slider that had the action itself. So connect. Notice that the header file has instructions. Instructions are statements that are processed by the processor or the operating system, and they end with a semicolon. But all the instructions in the header file are definitions. We defined a reference called slider red of type UI slider. That is an outlet, which means it connects to a component on the user interface. That is a property, which means that it has the built-in messages to change the value and retrieve the value. And the weak and non-atomic has to do with the memory, how the memory is stored, which is beyond our purpose at the time, but you can look them up in the documentation and see what they will do. Now, how we can implement this in the implementation file, we will talk about this in the next video.